So we have seen that of the purchase day book and sales day book. Let's look at the return invoice. When we defined return invoice, we said that this refers to the amount of goods returned to a business by debtors. So it means that return invoice affects debtors, right? And you can rightly see them that it was M. Ayodeji who returned some goods to us, and M. Ayodeji is a debtor. T. Aware was also a debtor. So return invoice are these debtors bringing back some goods they bought from a business to the business. Okay. So it means that these entries, individual entries of debtors, would go into the sales ledger, because the sales ledger is where information about debtors are recorded, or account of debtors are recorded. So if we have M. Ayodeji returning goods to us, then we have to go to M. Ayodeji's account, which is in the sales ledger. So we scroll up to our sales ledger and we have M. Ayodeji. When a debtor returns goods or returning goods, the entries are that we debit returning goods and we credit the debtor. So here we are going to credit Ayodeji because Ayodeji was giving the goods back. And if you remember the double entry principle for persons, debit the receiver, credit the giver. In this circumstance, it is M. Ayodeji who is giving back the goods to the business. So we are supposed to credit him for that return invoice. So we put the date 5th May 2003. The narration will be return invoice. We put the amount there, 250. So if you get, in fact, you don't really have to get confused, but if you do, always remember that, okay, when you sell to the person, you debit him or her. So if the person is returning some of the goods, you have to credit it. Okay. Then we go to T Aware. So T Aware is also in the sales ledger or debtors ledger. So we go there and also credit T Aware with that amount of return invoice. So return 500. And when you are done, you need to also transfer the total of 750. So this total 750 goes into return invoice account in which ledger? The general ledger. So it means that you need to go into your general ledger. Let's go down to our general ledger. So this is our general ledger. So under this ledger, we need one account for return invoice. So let me see if I can open that account. Okay, so return invoice. Return account. The entry we are supposed to pass in this return invoice account is a debit entry. Because anytime there is return invoice, you debit return invoice. So we are going to use the closing date 31st May 2003. The details will be debtors because it is debtors who return goods to the business. And you put the total amount 750. So in the return invoice account, what we have done is we'll post the individual entries to the person's account or the debtor's account in the sales ledger, and then the total will come to the general ledger in that specific items account returning. Okay, I want to believe we are good. I think as we progress, the understanding is also progressing. So finally, on the return outwards, for that one, it is going to affect our creditors because the business returns goes back to the creditors. So our creditors to have their account in the purchases ledger. So let's go to the purchases ledger, which is here. And the first return out was from Ibadah. So we locate Ibadah's account. Here it is. What entry are we supposed to pass? We are supposed to debit the creditor when we return goods to the creditor. We debit the creditor. Again, when you get confused, when you purchase from the creditor, you credit. So when you are returning goods back to them, they are receiving the goods, so debit the receiver. 13th May 2003. Return outwards. You put the amount there, 200. So that is it for Ibadah. So we left with that of N Akin. Okay, so let's go into N Akin's account and also debit N Akin on the 26th of May 2003. There was a return outwards of 500. Okay. Then after we post the total of the return outwards into the return outwards account in the general ledger. Okay. So I need to go back to my general ledger. And this is my general ledger where I have my sales, purchases, returning. So I finally need one account, one extra account, which is the return outwards. So let me copy this one and paste it here for my return outwards account. Okay, so return outwards account. This time, when you return goods outside, you credit return outwards. So the credit side, 31st May 2003. The narration will be creditors because you return goods to your creditors. Total of 700, and that is all. So we have been able to successfully post all the entries we made in the 4 day books, which are the sales day book, the purchase day book, return inwards day book, and return outwards day book. If you have followed, what you have to do is when you pick the first day book, so our first day book in this case was the sales day book. Entries in the sales day book will be posted to the sales ledger. So when you open your sales ledger, like we did, so there's it. You write the title, sales ledger, underline, and then you open the account for each of the debtors, right? You post the entries. You debit them in that case. And then the total, don't forget the total. The total will always go to the general ledger, sales account. So if we want to look at some summaries, it means that the individual entries will go into the various accounts depending on whether it is the sales day book or purchase day book or return invoice. But always the totals go into the general ledger. So if it is sales, then the total sales will go to sales account in the general ledger. If it is purchases, then the total will go into purchases account in the general ledger. If it is return invoice, then the total return invoice will go to return invoice account in the general ledger. And same for total return outputs. So the totals seem to go to the same ledger, which is the general ledger. But the individuals would have to go into the specific, whether debtor or creditors account, debtors or creditors ledger, which is the sales ledger and purchases ledger, respectively. Any question? Okay, if there are no questions, let me give you some illustration for you to attempt for me within just I think the rest of the minutes for our next session to end. I'm putting it here for you to have access to that illustration. Maybe okay, so let's get this question up and running. Okay, this one is a bulky question. Let me see if I can get a smaller question for all of us. But you see that it's very simple. You just have to follow the principles and you are good to go. Okay, since my question is not coming, let me quickly type something here for you. I just want to see how you would maneuver your way around preparing the journals and posting them to the ledgers. Okay. So you can copy this down in your exercise book and attempt it for me. When this session ends, you are going to take a screenshot and send to my WhatsApp. Okay. So record the following. Please, are we on the same page? If there's anything, let me know. Okay, so let's get the question. Just some few transactions, not plenty. Record the following in the appropriate journal and post to the ledgers. So the first one is sold goods to Army. $300. Use the date 1st January 2008. Okay. So the next transaction occurred on the 5th of January 2008. Purchased goods credit AK 6,000. If you don't see anything, draw my attention. Okay, the next date, 10th January 2008. Sold goods on credit to Amina. $1,200. 15 January 2008. Amina returned goods worth $200. 18 January. Returned goods to AAK Limited. $100. 19. Sold goods for cash. $150. Then finally purchased, which will be on the 22nd of January 2000. Purchased goods from AAK at $250. Okay, so there's what you have as a question. Please copy it now. Try it. Screenshot or take a shot and then send it to me on WhatsApp. It should be done in the next. Okay, let's negotiate. How many minutes do you want? Alexia, Frank, and Richmond. How many minutes do you want so that? Hello, professors.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, so how many minutes do you want for this exercise? Okay, since you don't
So
want, maybe maybe how many minutes?
So maybe 20 or something.
20, okay. So I'm
Maybe
dashing you
20.
20 minutes to finish up this exercise and send to my WhatsApp. After the 20 minutes, let's rejoin with the third session details. Okay. So I'm not closing this meeting yet. I'm leaving the question on for you to copy. But within 20 minutes, you should be done. So 20 minutes, I'll be back to check on you and then probably end this session and continue in the next session by way of solving this question together.